like to add a little bit from the history. Dorothea Dix started what we now call the Department of Mental Health in the state, and this was in the 1850s. And it was a place for mentally ill people, which is a genetic disorder, to go and have like a farm, you know, and they had a 400-acre farm. It's now the Dell Computer Corporation. But there was laws then passed that they could not pay, they had to do an evaluation and not pay mental health workers less than the minimum wage, or they could, like, for piecework, they could go down to 50% or to 20%, but it totally, it kind of destroyed that whole system of mental health. So I'm not sure it was, I think sometimes, and I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate, but you have to always try to do the right thing. And sometimes there are hidden consequences of, every action can have hidden consequences. We call it covert sensitization. It's becoming aware of what's hidden in your actions, and it's a great trait. Thank you.
One thing I want to remind people of. So this movement we're talking about, 1884, 1885, 1886, 1887. This is a long time ago, right? The situation they found themselves in was the situation that there was enormous wealth in a country that a few people got, right? And that the workers did not benefit from. And they were working longer hours all the time. They were becoming more productive all the time. If, like, statistically, right? Like, every hour worked by a worker in 1886 was more valuable than what they had worked 10 years before. They were producing more. They had better technology. They had better machines. They had better organization. They were producing more, and they were making less, right? This is the situation workers were finding themselves in everywhere. They found that they had to compete more and more for jobs because there were fewer and fewer jobs and more people, right? Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to overdo the point in order to recognize that people found themselves in a situation where their solution then was, wait a minute, what if kids had the right to go to school instead of working 12-hour shifts in the mines? Wait a minute, we already have a lot of people looking for work. Those people could have those jobs, right? Where people said, wait a minute, do we actually have to have a system where both parents in a family have to be forced to work in order for that family to have enough to eat? Actually, we have a lot of unemployed people looking for jobs. What if one person, one parent working made enough money for a family? They said, wait a minute, what if we had an 8-hour day for all workers? And by the way, the German brewers took it a step further. Free beer and a 2-hour paid lunch was their demand in Chicago in 1886, right? So some people had their sights set really high. Apparently they had that in Germany before they got here. So they had some solutions for this problem. I'm not going to suggest that those same solutions are the same ones we might fight for, though the IWW, their solution was a 16-hour workday. Solve unemployment, get our lives back. Sorry, 16-hour work week, I apologize. Theirs was 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. That may seem a little ambitious, but they were asking for it 100 years ago. So if we can step from there, there's one last question I want to do a little bit of going around about. If we supposedly have laws that protect us in these things, but clearly most people don't get them, how might we get them back? Or for a lot of people, for the first time, how would we do it? Tom?
I've been thinking about solutions as well as the problem, and
Can you speak up a little bit?
in Germany, for example, Europe is more advanced than we are, and socialism, people used to think of it as when the government controls the economy. Like in America, if we call it entrepreneurship, people get together and start a company. Well, in Europe, let's say, for example, if people are unemployed, if 6 people are unemployed and they get together, they can take their 3 years of unemployment and start a business, come up with a business plan. Large corporations suck, but many communities demand that, and countries demand that at least half of the board comes from workers. So if you have workers on the board of a company, which we don't have in America, then and also there's a responsibility to communities. Like, for example, some communities, if you come in and build a factory in our community, you can't leave unless we vote that you can leave. So part of the problem is we don't have we have to bring democracy back to corporations, and also we have to start small businesses.
So maybe, I don't know how people would feel about this. If we can do a really quick go around, if you don't have anything, feel free to skip, but keep it to one sentence and say what you feel like the most important lessons we might want to draw out from past movements in terms of tactics, in terms of how might we get these things back. It doesn't have to be absolutely concrete. If you feel like it's something a little more general, feel free to make that your sentence. But how might we go about struggling to win these things that supposedly we have, a lot of people never got? How would we go about doing it? So try to keep it to one sentence. It can be shorter than a sentence. It can be a word if you want. And we'll just go around and see what people are thinking. I'll start.
Okay.
Strikes. Work stoppages. I think it's super powerful.
One time Will told me this chant, and I think it explains it pretty well. From Nashville to Athens, there's only one solution: overthrow the bosses with the workers' revolution.
Here, here.
Woo! Right on.
As soon as we finish this, there's lots of food, so if we can go quickly.
I've been working for myself a lot recently, and I've found that in some ways you can get a lot of what you need without exchanging money. I get a lot of my food and other services and trade for my services, so it's a partial solution for some people sometimes.
Education.
Education.
Champion the Bill of Rights, especially Amendment 8. It's violated every day around here. It's like this whole area is forgotten.
Vote with your money and buy local, and don't stand up for the big corporations.
Don't big, demand.
Don't big, demand.
Revolution.
Militant, not reform.
I thought the people's might with the different languages was really powerful. So, and working together with people that we don't normally see day to day. So, taking a very conscious step away from racism and xenophobia, and working together with other people.
You're here.
Lots of strategy.
What was it?
Lots and lots of strategy.
Lots of strategy.
Different, yeah.
Different types of economic power, whether it's strike or boycott, etc.
Strikes, boycotts, economic agitation. Here?
Solidarity. Our labor force has no sense of coming together anymore.
Something that's already kind of happening is the idea of investing in the corporations that you want to change, and so that you have access to the shareholder meetings and you can confront the CEO, and that's already something that's happening. But if we can also, I mean, granted it takes money to do that, you know, but if you can get in there and start, if you're a shareholder and they're only making their decisions based on what the shareholders are demanding, if we become the shareholders and demand the rights and demand that they stop forsaking everything for the sake of profit, that's a method without the government even having to get involved in, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff like that going. Yeah. Thanks. You reduced it.
Anything
yeah.
back there?
Direct action.
Direct action.
Tactics and strategy flow from your view of the world, semicolon.
Yes.
Learn what the workers learned, that the bosses and the workers, the working class and the capitalist class have nothing in common, period.
Amen.
History repeats itself. Corporations acted badly in the 1800s, they act badly now, and the only thing that changed that was direct action, strikes,
strikes.
Nonviolent direct action.
It's the only thing the working class has.
Well, I mean, a lot of what I believe has been said, you know, solidarity. I'm huge behind that. People just standing together for a common goal.
Yeah. I'm working.
More suggestions, tactics, solutions, right?
100%. No, go ahead. You should say something.
Oh, I had people joining together in big groups.
Big groups. This is important, right?
100% solidarity. I think we need to extend that solidarity beyond just our own workplace to the point where we're reaching out to people within our community. You know what I mean? Like, look around. How many people do you know here? And now's a chance to get to know a lot more people. So.
Democratic community organizations to make decisions on a grassroots level.
Democratize. Back here? Okay. Sorry.
Educate, agitate, organize.
Great.
Empower people in nonviolent direct action.
Take this message outside of this little group and educate and talk to as many people, talk to strangers, bring people together wherever you are, different people.
Lindsay?
There are any kids, right? Talk to other people who think this shit's fucked up too.
Jeremiah, maybe.
Oh, yeah, maybe. At Workers Dignity, because there's so many languages, we use the picture. So to my brother's point, there's more of us than there are of them. So organize.
Yeah. If I can add one more, it would be legalize. There's a lot of our neighbors that, according to our government, don't count as people. That seems like a start, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. Another thing we'll talk a little bit more about tonight is the idea of neighborhood assemblies, the idea of taking what Occupy's done on city levels and taking that to neighborhood levels, taking that block by block, what it actually means to build power in a neighborly scale. So.
May I add one thing to what this gentleman over here said? Okay, he was talking about taking it outside of the groups. I would like, it's illegal because of Taft-Hartley, but I'd like to see working class solidarity like an IWW model across craft lines, across trade lines. I mean, if the steel workers strike, so do the Teamsters. I mean, that's illegal, but you will get away with it if there's enough of you doing it.
There you go.
Wow. Do you think that love is the answer?
Yes. On that note, food is also the answer. And does anybody want to give any instructions about food, Molly?
We'll have grilled corn, veggie dogs, and carrots.
Cool. So please get some food, and then there's going to be a march over to Occupy Vanderbilt, just a couple blocks away, around 1:30. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have food in my mouth. There's 3 wash tubs over there. The first one is rinse, the second one is wash, the third one is cleanse, final cleanse, so do your own dish.
And by the way, so we can just like go over the schedule for today while everybody's here too. So this is just the beginning of the day. Let's see if weather holds out. It was pouring in New York this morning. And so 1:30 over at Occupy Vanderbilt. At 3 o'clock, there's going to be a rally there with the Vanderbilt workers that have been organizing. There's 180 people from dining getting laid off this week. They've been fighting against that for years. They make an average of $16,500 a year. Okay? They're classified as seasonal employees in order to deny them unemployment insurance when they're laid off. They're doing a rally and they'd like to invite us over there. So I encourage people to stick around for that. Then from there, while we're there waiting, between 1:30 and 3, we're gonna do a really free market. Got lots of stuff we've been pulling out of the dumpsters at Vanderbilt that the students are throwing away as they leave. Lots of really great stuff. Some other people are bringing their own. We're just gonna share. The university made it very clear that we can't have any booths selling or trading items. And what we didn't tell them, but which we knew, was that's not allowed anyway during a really, really free market. So that's great. But if you want to come and share some of those things that'll be there, and then we're going to march downtown at 5 o'clock. There's a labor rally beginning right outside City Hall. City Council has a meeting tonight at 6. Some people are going to go in and have a presence there at City Council. Others are going to stay outside depending on weather and start talking about neighborhood assemblies and what an alternate vision of City Council could look like if we organized ourselves. And then tonight at 8 o'clock we'll be having a march to commemorate the martyrs of Chicago that were executed by the state of Illinois in 1887. At 9 o'clock we'll be reenacting some of their last speeches to the court. Anything I missed?
Can I just say, the 5 o'clock rally is in support of the labor union that represents all the Metro City workers that are continuing to see outsource and job cuts. And so some of them will be there, so it'd be a great time to see some solidarity in action, to stand together with those workers, that the few remaining workers in the state of Tennessee that do have a union. So we hope you can make that at 5.
And also the first 100 people there get free hot dogs.
First 100 people, we got a hot dog vendor, we shopped local, we found the guy that sells downtown, and he's gonna come over and he's got 100 hot dogs and bags of chips. So.
Veggie dog?